Dan Tyminski is a Grammy-winning icon of Bluegrass and Americana. He's the voice behind Man of Constant Sorrow in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and a longtime member of Allison, Kraus, and Union Station. In this episode, we break down his approach to groove, tone, and ensemble playing.
I totally play off the moment in a way that I was never able to do, through the lifetime of my career. The ability to kind of have fun with it in a different way is something that excites me so much.
Whether you're chasing better timing or trying to find your sound, this episode offers a masterclass in the fundamentals that actually matter. I'm Spencer from Sonora Guitar Intensive, and this podcast is made in collaboration with Carter Vintage Guitars here in Nashville, Tennessee. If you want to learn from some of the greatest guitar players in the world, hit subscribe to stay in the loop with future episodes.
Dan, welcome to the podcast.
So happy to be here. You kidding? This is my pleasure, totally.
There's a whole bunch of stuff I want to dive into, and I've been really excited for this episode because I know personally your singing was the first thing that introduced me to bluegrass music when I was a kid. I remember driving around with my stepdad, listening to that record on repeat, the Oh Brother soundtrack, and it really switched me on to that whole tradition, and so this is a very meaningful conversation for me, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. There are a lot of musicians who are switched on to music in general and this genre.
You do it long enough. I'm proof. You do it long enough, you're going to hear this. That's something I'll never get tired of hearing, by the way. That thrills me to have been a part of something that could touch so many as Oh Brother did. Yeah. That was crazy amazing.
Well, and what's cool about you is that's where it started, and you haven't stopped. You've been doing a whole bunch of things throughout your career, and I want to dig into a whole bunch of that stuff. I also today want to dig into some of your influences. I know Tony Rice is big for you. I want to talk about some rhythm guitar stuff and how you think about right hand technique. And I think a good place to start is maybe at the beginning for you. When did you get into music and why?
Well, I got into music and why? Just, I guess, from access. That's just what I had access to. My parents, though they weren't necessarily players of music, they were big music fans, and they went to hear live music somewhere every week. Real fiddle contests, square dance, country bar, wherever they were, whatever it happened to be. And I just found myself sitting in front of live music, watching it, watching people play, and it just looked like fun, right? So I get, as a 6-year-old, my brother was in the service. He comes back one time on leave, and he has a mandolin with him. And he left the mandolin home with me, because I kind of took to it. So when I was like 6, just before 7, I started tinkering on a mandolin, right? And I learned a few chords on the mandolin, and I could play enough to where it was fun. I would play. My parents were very enthusiastic about my talent. They recognized that I could sing and that I could play. But we have to skip ahead till I was 12 now. As a 12-year-old, I heard J.D. Crone, The New South, the 0044 record, the record everyone talks about. And that's the record that messed up my head. Like I couldn't hear it. I couldn't get enough of it. I rewound it over and over and over and over again. Finding a love affair with a banjo, right? I listened to JD's playing, and that just the energy that had, like it was amazing. And I went inside that day and I told my parents, I said, I want a banjo. As a 12-year-old, and they said, we lived in Vermont. They said, we don't know where to get a banjo. Like, we don't have anyone that can teach you how to play a banjo. We don't know anyone. I said, I'll teach myself if I just need a banjo, right? For my 13th birthday, I got to go to the music store and pick out whatever banjo was on the wall, right? And I took that thing home and never looked back, man. From that point forward, I was on fire for the banjo and then bluegrass music, because during that time we had discovered bluegrass festivals where my parents would go and we would camp out for 2 or 3 days. And man, there was a community there that I never dreamed I would find myself in, that just was completely different than the life I had at home. I mean, I felt so safe and so accepted and so just built up and promoted, and everyone just loved the music. And if you could play a little bit, then you got a little extra attention. And, so I liked that. So I just, I went for it. And once I got that banjo in my hands, man, that was it. I wanted to play banjo for someone. I mean, I wanted to play banjo for Allison Kraus. Originally, that's what I tried to join the band as a banjo player. That's what I wanted to do in the band. And I remember when Ron Block took the job, I remember where I was sitting when I got the phone call. Someone said, hey, did you hear who Allison has playing banjo? And in my naive mind, I'm thinking, are you telling me it's me, right? Right? I mean, this is how stupid I am. No, and they said, Ron Block. And I thought, Ron Block? what, right? And of course, genius decision. I mean, he is absolutely the man, and he's the man. And I obviously wasn't the guy for that job. Anyway, when that happened, I thought that was it. Never again. No more opportunity for that. And lo and behold, she asked me if I wanted a guitar job shortly after that. And guitar wasn't my thing. I was a banjo player. As saying, I grew up wanting to only play the banjo, and it just never seemed to work out.
Why did she invited you to play guitar?
I think for the same reason the Lonesome River Band wanted me to play mandolin. It was easier to put an emphasis on the singing, and that's really what I believe the job description needed mostly was someone to sing the parts with her. And of course, I mean, you have to be able to be an instrumentalist and to play, and that goes without saying. But the emphasis was vocals. Same thing, Lonesome River Band. I joined the Lonesome River Band as a banjo player, so I thought, so I was told, and I agreed to fill in on the mandolin until, we found someone, and that was, 5+ years until I joined Allison. I was on the mandolin. So,
Yeah. How did you get plugged into that whole scene? How did Allison know to invite you?
Through the Lonesome River Band was for sure the way that Allison got a hold of me. There was a record that I did with those guys early on, late 80s, called Looking for Yourself, our first record as my part of when I was with the band. And there was a couple songs on there, I guess, that someone had played for her, and they liked the singing, like it tickled a nerve, whatever nerve. I'm forever thankful that it did, because probably without that Looking for Yourself record, they never hear that song that they were talking about that led to the first phone call to me, which I actually turned down. The first phone call I got from Allison way back when, I just joined the Lonesome River Band, and I got a call from, it wasn't from her, it was from one of the band members, and they were asking, gauging interest. And I turned them down flat. I had just moved away from Vermont to join the Lonesome River Band, big time bluegrass band. I'd never heard of Allison Krauss. I was wondering why. No. It was a flat no. Then of course after this, through the next few years, I became super fan of the band, because once I understood what they actually sounded like and who they were and everything about it, it was easily the best thing going at the time. And
What was it like your first couple of weeks with that band?
Total fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really comfortable on the guitar. The guitar was the last instrument that I kind of took up full time that I actually cared about. And I knew how to play enough. So I tell people I took up guitar when I joined the band, which sounds like a much bigger deal than it was. I knew how to play some chords on the guitar. When I joined Allison's band, I was young 20-something. I was like 21.
Wow.
I knew enough and I had calluses. I mean, I played a mandolin. I knew how to use a pick. I knew how to make the chord right, but I wasn't comfortable, right? So, and in my mind, the type of songs that she played had a lot more chords than the songs that the normal bluegrass stuff that I was playing. I mean, I played a lifetime of 3 chords. If you stuck in that extra chord, you were getting fancy, right? Well, Allison played songs in all different keys with all different chord structures and a lot. So I was not in my comfort zone for a very long time before I felt like I was breathing the guitar. It took a minute.
How'd you navigate that? Like, did you experience?
Played all the time. I just played all the time. I sat home. I remember when I first took the job, I didn't even own a guitar. I borrowed a guitar. I had one of Ron's guitars, and I remember just playing until I couldn't press the strings down anymore. Just going through the tapes and the records, just playing all that stuff, and I've always had just the right amount, in my opinion, the right amount of OCD to when I needed to hyper focus on something, I could really pick something apart well and understand how it fit with the other stuff. I mean, I think I did a good job all those years, and because it was a very specific part that needed to be played, right?
Yeah.
And you have to be highly aware of what's going on around you when you do that, no matter what instrument you're holding. And I found myself in a situation surrounded by some of the greatest of the great, and it put me in I need to catch up mode really quick.
Yeah. That's wild. Were you listening to other players for inspiration to figure out how to fit in as a guitar player? Because I imagine it's a little bit different than as a mandolin player.
Yeah, well, the guitar job was the guy that I followed in Union Station, Tim Stafford, was a game-changing rhythm guitar player. Yep. He did something no one else did. He had a sense of the lope that he put in his rhythm, the timing that he was able to, he had groove to spare, right? Tim was, and he was very unique. He played with a very different right hand style, almost looked like he was going to play banjo, Then he held a pick sideways, and he was very percussive, and he was a maniac, right? So at first, I originally wanted to fill that role. I needed to be that. But that's not who I was, right? I had just come from playing with the Lonesome River Band where Tim Austin, the rhythm player, who was also one of the great rhythm players of that period, played a completely different style of rhythm. He played a very fan rhythm, cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha, like it was fast. He could play lightning fast, but his pick just barely touched the strings, and it was just a very light fan. It was not the same type of percussive, right? So I found a home somewhere in between those two things. I'm somewhere between those two, if you want, if I were to describe myself, but I think other people might describe me differently. Like, I really don't know. What I do know is throughout the course of the band, my rhythm playing changed. When Adam Steffi was playing mandolin in the band, and I felt that backbeat chop, it freed me up to do a lot of things that I could not do after he left the band and we got a dobro in its place. Take away the mandolin chop, I had an extra little job to fill. Now I was that backbeat too, right? So I played a lot more. You'll see me hit it a lot right on the mandolin chop because I was trying to play kind of those. So I played different rhythm with Jerry than I played with Adam, but I'm going to say throughout a lifetime, I'm only going to play whatever I feel like fits to whoever I'm playing with, right? So whatever the hole is, I fill that hole. That's the way I've always kind of felt about what I did. I've been able to pick things apart pretty well and try to decipher what I can add, and if I can't add, I'm happy to just listen to good music. I don't need to be a part. I was so fortunate to get that call with Allison, with that particular band, because they were the hungriest. We wanted it more than most you'll find, and we were all very self-policing players. No one ever told anyone else what to do. We were also self-critical, that we made sure that what we were doing was the best that we could do, and usually we all knew when everyone else, When you're doing something that everyone likes, everyone knows. Yeah.
When you are working with your band now, what are some of the biggest lessons that you draw from your experience with Allison that you're applying even today?
What do I draw from? I mean, I've drawn a lifetime of working on my craft from Allison. I don't know if I've ever broken it down to say, well, I get this, and so I'm really going to employ this, and this. I think it's a lifetime of learning. It's really, in my opinion, for me, it's raising your own awareness of what you're actually trying to do when you go out and play music. So most musicians, I'll say most, you grow up in your bedroom and you play your whole life and you perfect your craft, right? And you get to be really good at your craft. You get that, you have that prowess, you can play, right? A good share of those people never really make the connection that now that you can do that, you now have to present that. Presenting it to someone is completely different than playing it. You have to understand, and this is the learning process that you get over a full career of playing music. You continue to build on what it is to translate what you're doing to the person, to be able to have a visual connection to the person you're playing to the audience, to the camera, to whatever you're playing to. There's an awareness that the more eyes you have on you, the more responsibility you carry to try to actually give them some entertainment, because you can listen to a record, or now, you can get on the computer, you can hear anything you want, anytime you want. There's no need, right? Other than to have that inspiration you can't get except from another human being making music. Go hear that live music. That's what I preach to everyone. But it's a lifetime of work and awareness and hopefully knowing what the crowd wants to hear. Like, I'm in a position now, I don't know if I learned this from Allison, but I can show you some ways that I'm different than what I was doing with Union Station, for instance. We had a very calculated show that worked, right? We knew what we were going to start with. We knew what the fourth song was. We knew what the last song was, everything in between, right? That was...
Solos? Were the solos pre-written?
Solos were not pre-written. We always played to a suggested script. I mean, we knew what it was. We knew what we did. Sometimes if it felt like it made a better impression to play what we played on the record. I mean, a lot of times I played note for note what I played on the record. I would vary a little bit to keep it interesting, but I always kept it within that framework. And that's where I'm going to say what I'm doing now is a little bit different. My show is now, for the better, for the worse, it's nowhere near as scripted. I mean, I know what I'm going to start with, and I know what I'm going to end with. I know I've got to do Man of Constant Sorrow, and I'm going to do Hey Brothers somewhere in there, right? So I know there's a few aspects of the show that people will be mad if I don't do.
Yeah.
But I try to look at the audience and get a feel for that audience and try to understand really what do they want. Are these, because you can tell if they're the righteous hardcore bluegrassers. You can hear it in how they yell. You can tell if they want the more intellectual stuff. You can tell if they're ready for fast and party, or you can tell if they actually have ears to hear if you want to go a little deeper and play songs that are more lyrically, dependent. So what I do now is I am a free-for-all, man. I go out there and I try to read the audience and I try to give them what I interpret that they want. I sing my songs differently. Sometimes I do them in different keys. I totally play off the moment in a way that I was never able to do, through the lifetime of my career. I don't think either one is right or wrong, but the ability to kind of have fun with it in a different way is something that excites me so much with what I'm doing now. It's a thrill to have the type of freedom that I have now.
That's so cool. I'm curious. So you're playing with Allison's band. At what point in that trajectory does the Oh Brother soundtrack kind of come on your radar? How do you get that invite?
That was early. It was still pretty early in the band. I mean, I had been there for a few years by this point, right, and enjoyed what I thought was more success than I would have ever seen in this type of music. I mean, that was easily the best job in the game in that time, or in this time or any time, right? And no, I was never considered there could be anything outside of what I was doing. I was so thrilled with what I was doing. And then we get the news that they're doing this movie and the Coen brothers are there. And our manager at the time was also helping T-Bone Burnett cast some people for this, right? So we we knew someone to get in the door, and we just knew we wanted to be involved somehow, that we went to audition just to meet him and play some music for him. We didn't know to what capacity, right? So as a band, Allison, Kraus, and Union Station. And we did that and had our chit chat and did everything. And we were leaving. We were literally walking out the door. And our manager, Denise Stiff, thank you so much, Denise. She turned around to T-Bone and said, "Hey, have you cast George Clooney's voice yet? Because Dan might be a candidate." She just thinks. She just goes like this. She goes like on a whim. And they said, "Well, no, you want to come back tomorrow and audition?" And I was like, "Sure." And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, "That's great. Whatever," right? But I went back the next day and they gave me 2 different songs to audition with. They said it was going to be Mana Constant Sorrow or this one other Stanley Brothers song. And I chose Mana Constant Sorrow and went in there and gave them a version, nothing like what they ended up going with, right? I did it higher and faster and bluegrassier and nothing, the only thing I knew, right? Me. And they said, "Well, thanks, we'll call you," right? Which just sounded, like a gentle goodbye.
Yeah.
And I get home, one too many hours later, the phone rings. T-Bone Burnett says, "Listen," says, "when we see George Clooney singing, we hear your voice coming out. Do you want this job?"
Wow.
And of course, I was still stunned, but I said yes and recorded the song, went in the studio. And it was the whole experience of how that was recorded was amazing because it had to be on old microphones, old instruments, one take, no fixes. Like it was the most pure thing I've ever been a part of. And honestly, I wasn't in love with my performance. I really wanted to fix some of it, but they were like, "No, it's one take," So I did it, like 100 times, and they picked probably the first take,
Wow.
But at one point, I remember during the movie, after everything was in the can, they come to me and we were filming in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and they said, "Listen, Clooney wants to sing this song. Like, would you go in the studio and play it with him?" Now, in my mind, I hear like the lottery machine bells going off. I'm like, "Cha-ching, man, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I get to record this with the man." I'm like, "Yes, let's go." So we go in the studio, and Clooney's in the room, and I'm playing guitar, and he's singing the song. And I got to say, for the record, I'm so glad we're on camera now because I have heard him say in interviews, that he doesn't sing, he can't sing, and he's FOS, man. He can sing, okay? He's absolutely capable. He could have sang this song. All he had to do was say, "Yeah, I want this."
Yeah.
That's all it would have taken, right? Yeah. But it had to be one take and all, so he got part way through the song and he messed a little line up, so he had to stop and start it over again, right? It's hard to do a full take of a song.
Yeah.
So he tried it just a couple more times, and each time there was a mistake or something that we couldn't keep, he stopped, and after just a few takes, he took his headphones off and he walked down and he goes, "Dan," he goes, "listen, I don't know what I'm doing in here." He says, "I'm going to make you a deal." He took his headphones off. He said, "I'll act, you sing, and he shook his hand, he stuck his hand out, and I shook his hand, and my world was crushed. That was when my heart literally sank to my feet. And I remember I called my wife at the time, and I was like, he didn't do it. No, now it's going to be me. This is insane, right? Like, no, it was insane, right? Yeah. And then now we got to skip ahead again, because I go ahead, a couple of years now. Had Clooney sang this song, of course, I would have made my session fee, like $320 or $360, I forget, but something like that. And I would have been, dang proud of it. I would have been bragging to everyone as I, spent that $300. I made this playing with, maybe you've heard of him, right?
Just it.
But instead, because he said, I'll act, you sing, I got to pay off my house and buy new cars and put my kids in college and essentially raise a family on what that song, generated. I couldn't have imagined anything in my lifetime being bigger than that. And through all of this in the years and seeing everything it's done and knowing what I did with all that, like it's still crazy. It still doesn't hold a candle to the people who continue to come up to me like you did at the start of this interview and said, I heard you as a little kid growing up, like this changed me. This got me listening to this music. And every time I've heard that, and this sounds like cliche bullshit, but it's not. Every time I hear that, I would trade all the money I ever got for that to know that I could be part of that type of influence in this music. Yeah. It gets me emotional because you can't control stuff like that. That was brought to me, and I hope that I have done that song and that whole experience justice with what I'm doing and what I've done with my career, because it means everything to me that people get to still be influenced by that. Yeah. It's amazing.
That's incredible. What was it like after the film comes out? And there's a whole bunch of other stuff I want to explore too, but I'm curious, like after the film comes out, I imagine like your whole experience in the world changes, because suddenly you're this guy who's done this thing that everyone's heard, and it's like, it's internationally successful. Well, tell me about that.
Yeah, I had a weird mix of, well, first of all, I really never had that type of spotlight. I wasn't aware of what type of pressure came along with that spotlight and the demands of your time and when you're out in public and when you're just your everyday life. I'll say it changed after that song, right? I wasn't prepared for the magnitude of what it was. Like when I did it, it was another bluegrass song, a couple years later, it's people identify music by that song, right? So all of a sudden I found myself like one time at Dollywood with my family on vacation, right? We were taking some of the rides, and I had, 3 little kids, and I found myself on one of these long lines for a ride, and right in the middle of the line, a lady looked at me and she said, "Oh, brother, where art thou?" And a couple more people looked and said, "You're him."
Very nice.
And that was my next hour and a half
Down.
of us. Like, this is one, of course, now the movie was in its height. Yeah. Now no one knew me, right? I got to enjoy a lot of anonymity throughout that process, which I can't tell you how much I appreciated. Like, I got the perfect taste of it where I got to taste a little of that big spotlight, but no, most of the time, I was unnoticed. But yeah, for the next little while after that, it was, I had to be more prepared. Like if I went somewhere or if I were just, what comes along with it is that's when I started to realize, I had a lot more responsibility than I'd ever had in my life. That's when it became apparent that I had to step my game up to honor I was given a huge gift with that song, right? You have to be diligent when you have that many eyes on you. So yeah, it was part of the growing process, and it was a huge part of the growing process. The years that followed that song was when my life really started to take shape, and I became aware that I was more than just someone who looked down at the instrument and played. I had to look up at the people and present it from that point forward.
Very clearly.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing all that, first of all. It's unbelievable. You're playing with Allison's band, and at what point, I know recently in the last few years, you've sort of transitioned into doing a lot of your solo stuff, but I think you started doing the solo stuff while you were still in the band. Can you tell me about that decision to?
Well, yeah, I mean, I did. There's a lot of history there. And when I think, so when he came off the road, I'll try to sum it up here. We came off the road in 2015. I think that was the last, and like around June, we had toured for that summer and the previous year with Willie Nelson, and we were rocking. But at that point, we'd also had like 25 consecutive years of beating it, right? Really hard, right? So we were going to take some time off. Some time off led to more time off, led to Allison doing some more stuff with Robert, which meant there was so much to come with that. At a point, I felt like I needed to start a band, right? Because, and I've been on record saying this a lot, and this is kind of good. I'm happy the cameras are on because I get to come clean about a few things. I mean, first of all, I felt like I was, and I always have felt like I was born to do that job in Allison, Krauss, and Union Station. Like I was trained for that position all those years, right? But I didn't want to admit to myself that I really did kind of enjoy the center stage, the spotlight, getting to make some of the decisions, or getting to have the control of the songs I wanted to play, or whether I played them at all. Just a lot of that stuff I found. And this was quite unexpectedly to me because, again, I've had opportunities to start up other things, and I've had solo bands in the past to like fill up time. 2008, I did it for a year, but always knowing it was just, I was killing time, right? I didn't look at it like, wow, I have something to say, right?
Sure.
And man, I don't know when it switched, but after a few years of doing it and playing in this band, like I find myself in a position, I mean, I don't make near the money I made when I was with Union Station, right? But what I get to do with what I'm doing right now, I can't really put it into words. Like I think I said it before, I have a freedom to explore areas I just simply couldn't do with that band. And I'm looking at it at this, like 30 fantastic years, right? That I have the best of the best of the best memories. I mean, that band made me who I am. I mean, They gave me my wings. Now I need to fly, damn it. It just is what it is. I've transitioned somehow. I don't know if there was a time, right? A mark exactly when it happened. But there was a point when I look back and realize I can never let this go. I can never let it go. And to the point where even, I mean, and I'm somewhat, unsettled with how it all went down, with this Allison coming back, and they've recorded, Arcadia's out now. And I was part of the band when we were doing that. And I worked up that stuff with them and went in the studio and recorded this stuff. And it was in the process of that recording that the light bulb finally switched off, where I had to make it, like I had to figure out who I was and what the rest of my life was going to look like. And it was one of those things where it was one of the hardest, easiest things I could have done, because it was completely hard to do, because I really kind of felt like I owed it to the public. Like I felt like I owed it to the public. I felt like I owed it to the band. I felt like I had spent all those years being that character. I mean, I've always been someone's rendition of Dan Tyminski, right? I was the Lonesome River Band's rendition of Dan Tyminski. They found my songs, kind of steered how I did them. Then I was Alison Krauss's version of Dan Tyminski. I was the man against the elements, or the farmer, or the soldier, or whatever, in all those songs, right? But I found myself now getting to be Dan Tyminski's version of Dan Tyminski, and the stuff that I do now has a freedom and a joy and a life that I didn't feel when I was in there making that record. Like I was making a record with arguably the best band in the world, okay? And I felt an emptiness, like I was betraying myself, if that makes any sense, right? Yeah. From what I was doing. I had just come out of the studio with my band. It's hard to, I have I don't want to sound too bad here, but I have a jealous love for what I'm doing and the people I'm doing it with that I am just simply unwilling to let go of, man. I'm grasping it like this, right? Yeah. It feeds me in a way that I can't be fed any other way right now. It allows me a freedom and a voice that, for better or for worse, when you hear me now, you hear my version of me. You hear me making the mistakes, you can pin it on me. You don't like the song, it's my fault. If you love the song, also my fault, Yeah. It's a whole different, more, sensitive, more vulnerable area to stand and to live in. But it's so exciting, and I love it so much.
You're just following joy.
It's me now. Yeah.
So who's Dan Tyminski?
Man, that's, people are still trying to figure that out. I think I'm in that camp of figuring out who Dan is. I mean, Dan Tyminski is the truth. I mean, that's a very vague way to say it. I mean, to say Dan Tyminski is the truth. No, am I the truth? I am at my best when I'm swimming in the truth. When I'm writing songs, if I can work in the truth. If I'm singing songs, if it can come from my truth. Like, that's what makes me the happiest. I mean, short of maybe making people laugh, like being a joker, being a clown, like as far as entertaining goes, I wouldn't feel like I had a good show at all if the people weren't laughing at some, or hopefully a few points in the show, right? I feel like humor is an enormous part of who Dan Tyminski is, and I really didn't have a voice to exercise any of my stupidness, okay? I mean, it was Allison's job to be stupid. Right? And she was great. No, she turned kind of a vulnerable, someone who really didn't like to speak to people in that way. Like, way back in the day, Adam Steffi was our spokesman, and when he left, there was a point where she was leaning to me saying, Dan, say something. And no, I literally I was like, it's your show, man. They don't want to hear me. They want to hear you. And she found her legs in the spokesperson department now, to where when you listen to her talk, she has made so much out of that vulnerable, not quite sure what to say moment. She's so funny, like when she talks, it's great. But anyway, I get to do that now, and I go back to my earliest memories of entertaining, and it was making people laugh. It wasn't playing or singing for anyone. It was being a clown or telling jokes or doing things that whenever I could get a giggle or a chuckle. Those are my earliest childhood memories of entertaining. And when I think back to shows that I've played, my best shows are easily the shows
People are laughing.
I've had to talk. I've told even my wife now. I've told her this. I said, because I want people, first and foremost, I want them to love the music. I mean, I care so much about what I do, the content, how it's performed, everything about it, right? I mean, I want them to love the music, but I want them to laugh and have a good time. Yeah. In the show, I told my wife I'm to the point where I'm ready to do like 10 minutes of stand-up. Just in the mid. No, I told her, listen, babe, I'm going to do 10 minutes of stand-up right in the middle of a show.
Yeah.
Right? And I swear to you, she looked at me, she says, well, they should really be ready for some music after that. This is what I live with, right? This is my life, but I love it. The chance to get to go on at length as long as I feel like talking about things. Yeah, man, I take every advantage of that ability now.
One of the things that you can pick up from this interview, and also when before we were recording here, you were telling us a story about your luthier. You're a great storyteller. You have a way of crafting a narrative, great timing, and just kind of knowing how to hook someone's attention and then like deliver on the thing. Is that a practice skill? Have you thought about storytelling or the craft of storytelling? Or is this just...
Well, I think everyone kind of has that inside them. Everyone wants to be understood. They want to communicate to the best that they can. But I am very critical, like, on how I listen to other people. And when I hear stories, that don't quite get to the point, or when they don't, I constantly critique everything I hear. So yeah, I think I put some of that in how I tell my stories. I like to think that people can ride along, whether I'm singing a song or telling a story or whatever it is. I would like to think that they have some stable feet to stand on as we go through, that they understand what it's about first and how we're going wherever we're going. And yeah, I didn't know this for my whole life, but I discovered this, through the process of entertaining, that storytelling is there's something to it. I do enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It also sort of reminds me of just skill acquisition in general. I know you're wearing a foosball shirt here.
Yeah, man, I'm representing.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm representing. I just know it's got a foosball guy on it. This is North Carolina foosball. Okay, there we go. Go North Carolina foosball, man. I'll be there soon.
I learned in our pre-interview process that you are kind of obsessed with foosball.
That's a very fair statement and accurate. I am. That's just an easy way to say it. I am obsessed with foosball.
Why? And can you tell us about your foray into foosball?
Okay, first of all, it's the most fantastic game ever.
You heard it here first.
No, it is so great. Like, I think kind of like music or anything else in my life, it's just kind of what I had access to and what I fell into, and I was able to have something to focus my OCD on, right? Mm-hmm. There was a foosball table that my brother had in our basement when I was so small. Like, I remember looking over the side and watching him play with his friends, and so I've been playing the game since from the very first point you could play the game, right? Mm-hmm. Since I could see over, old enough to grab the handles. And there has always kind of been foosball in my life, not on purpose. It was at my school and it was at my rec room. And then when I got old enough to go to the bars and play in tournaments, it was there. You know, we had a foosball little league.
You're a competitive foosball player.
Yeah, I travel all over the country and compete in foosball tournaments. You want to hear you want to know what's killing me? Let me tell you, this is killing me. The Nationals, the National Foosball Tournament, the second biggest tournament that there is coming to Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
This weekend.
Okay, and no.
I'm leaving tomorrow.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the West Coast, right? This whole time.
It, man. Just
right?
Priorities.
Right. No, well, here's what I have done. I mean, I do cancel the Worlds. You know, I make sure that I'm free for. Yeah. I try to go to the World Championships, right?
So you're living a double life.
No, so I'm so bummed. So all my friends that are into it, they're like, dude, we're in your back door. You know, can we play? You want to play? You want to team up? And no, I can't. I can't even see any of it. I'm gonna miss the whole tournament that's coming. I mean, the best foosball players on planet Earth, people who are just stunning to watch. Yeah. They're all coming here, and I'm leaving. But I wish you all luck.
They're gonna crush it.
That's all I can do.
What's the secret to foosball? If you were to sum up the main three things that if someone is trying to learn foosball and they want to be competitive, what do they got to learn?
You first of all have to have competitive people to play against.
Okay.
You will never get, but only as good as your competition. Mm-hmm. So this is one thing in foosball. No matter what you think you can do, standing there at your house, playing, learning a shot, doing whatever, until you play in a tournament scale, right? So first thing is find competition. Okay. Play better people than you. I want to be the worst foosball player on the table in any foursome that's wherever playing, right? Because that's the most fun I can have. I want everyone to be better than me, always.
Yeah.
So find good competition. The next thing, I mean, there are a couple different ways to look at it. I mean, I'm going to say controlled aggression. You have to, it's a very good outlet to have some controlled aggression. I mean, you can. I don't know if there's anything else at my age that is going to give me the level of adrenaline that I'm going to get from playing foosball right up close and personal against someone. Like it's the most I can get. I mean, I can't run for a half an hour straight and get my heart beating like that. It's amazing, right?
Wow.
But practice. I mean, table time. Foosball is an extremely difficult game to play from just a perspective of coordination, to be able to do to do what you will with the ball, make that ball do whatever. Yeah. It's just table time. It's a lot of time, and if you can take that time playing against good players, you'll get better. I was very fortunate to grow up and always have kind of some equals and some people to look up to the whole time I was playing. And now that I go to the tournaments again, I took 30 years off let me just clarify this. I grew up played and competed and traveled the country until 1989. In 1989 was when I moved away from my foosball cronies, right? Moved to Virginia. That was before the internet or any way for me to keep tabs on what was going on. So I literally fell out of my life, 30 plus years. And then a few years back, like 4 years ago, I was on the internet and I just happened to wonder about an old guy that I used to play with. I'll give him a shout, Stan Pawlowski, my old partner from New Hampshire, and or from Vermont. And I found him and I watched him play and I was like, it's exactly how he played 30 years ago. I think I can beat him, right? This is me. So, right, I'm an idiot. No, I'm stupid. But I said, I got to find him. And of course, once I'd started the feed, the next thing that came up in my feed was, come to the Lexington Foosball Kickoff, Tour Classic Kickoff, the whatever. And I was like, Lexington, Kentucky, that's pretty close to me. And I looked and it was just coming up in 2 weeks. I had that weekend off. I was like, I'm going to a foosball tournament. First time in 32 years.
Stan to go?
No, I call my buddy that I used to play with, my real partner, the guy who I was actually full-time partners with, Tag Leon, and he's a golf pro now at Talamore Country Club in Southern Pines, North Carolina. I got to give Tag a shout out because he's the man. I'm not playing music. I'll give you the story of all stories. Tag is the reason I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Tag, I owe you big and I know it.
Wow.
But anyway, I call my buddy who also hasn't played foosball in 32 years and I said, we're going to a tournament next week, buddy. I said, get over here. He's a golf pro, right? He runs. I knew he could get the time off, right? So he goes, no. He says, I haven't played 30 years. I'm not going to make a fool of myself. I said, no, we're both going to make fools of ourselves together. It's going to be amazing. Let's go. And once he realized I was serious, he's like, dude, if you're really serious, I'll go, but I don't think it's wise. I'm like, dude, I don't want to do it to people. Let's go. Come on, right? And we went there and we took third place in amateur doubles.
There you go.
And I took
the comeback.
And I took third place in senior singles. And in my mind, now here's again, I'm ignorant, and I'll be the first to admit it. I'm thinking, I said, man, senior singles. I said, I can whip those seniors, is that right? Yeah, it didn't dawn on me that all the people that could, whip my butt all those years ago have been playing for 30 years, and now they can really, right now they're better. But I still, again, I played a lot, and I'm a reasonably ranked foosball player, and I play above my ranking because I haven't been playing any tournaments. So yeah, I snuck a third place out, and I came home with 2 trophies, and I came home with 2 trophies and table number 8 from the tournament in my trunk. And I don't have a dining room table. I have a foosball table.
No, really?
No, absolutely. What do you think I did right before I came here?
You must have eaten lunch at a foosball table.
That's right. Food is not a part of my life anymore. I just go to the foosball table, and again, I'm getting my wife's getting pretty good. So, I get to practice a little bit against her.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
Who's the best foosball player in the world?
Tony Spraderman.
Okay. And have you met him?
Oh yeah, I've met him. I've got his number in my phone. Like I've met some of these guys, and these are the guys I'm such a freak fan of. You have no idea. Like there's a few guys, Brandon Munoz, Tony Spraderman, Ryan Moore. I could name a bunch. I could go on from Todd Lafredo on down the list. There's a
pantheon.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of the true masters. They're really the greats of the great.
Yeah.
And I've become buddies with Tony a little bit, and buddies with Brandon a little bit, and Ryan Moore as well. Yeah,
they're. Played him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played it.
Tough competition, I imagine.
Well, we're talking about world champ. Okay, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I can. Okay. I said. What did I tell you? Dan Tyminski was.
Truth.
The last time I played Brandon Munoz, I beat him.
Okay.
Okay. Now he is a world champion.
Fighting words. You might be watching this.
But I have to give the full story because along with this truth was it was not in a tournament. He didn't have anything really on the line except pride. No money, right?
Yeah.
But we played a pickup game in the thing. We played 2 out of 3.
Okay.
And this was a great story because, he's a great player, but he was having fun. He was playing what I would call fun foosball, right? So I like that too. I've got a lot of table time. I was playing fun foosball.
Yeah.
And my fun foosball is competitive, right? So we play, and I win the game, right? He goes, 2 out of 3, let's go. And he serves, man. And he got a little more serious on the next game, right? And it was close, but he won that next game. He goes, okay, 2 out of 3, here we go. He hands me the ball to serve. So I'm playing hard now this third game, and he's playing a little harder. We're both going.
Yeah.
And it got to be game ball, and I scored the last ball, and I ripped a pull kick, right? I hit a really good shot. Foosball players will know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
I rip a shot in like that, and I backed away from the table, and he goes, this is Brandon. This is great. He goes, got to win by 2. Let's go. And I looked at him and I said, you're a master. I said, I'm an expert. Experts only win by 1. I said, bye-bye. And I walked out of there. And I'm not lying. When he left the tournament, and he's such a gentleman and he's such a great guy, right? But this is and he said this in front of a couple people so they could hear it.
Yeah.
As I left, he said, by the way, Dan, he said, only 2 people beat me this week. He says, only 2 people. He says, Tommy Yore and you. And he walked away and he let other people eat, right? And I walked away, kind of with my chest puffed out like this, right? So yeah, I've got to play some of those I got to play Tony Spraderman in an actual event, a tournament, and in the last game, I took him to game ball.
Yes.
But if I could explain those games, like he did some really funny stuff. He's that level where he gives you just enough to win.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Those guys at that level. And no joke, I would be flirting with that level had I played for those 30 years because I was there when I stopped in '89. You're talking to someone who played between 40 and 60 hours a week of foosball for years.
Wild.
For years.
It's interesting to me because I've met a lot of folks who have been really successful in music, and a lot of them have this thing where they're like weirdly obsessed with this other side hobby, and then have also it's the type of personality that, like you said, this OCD fixation on.
It's nice to have a release.
Yeah,
I think is what it is. I think
you find that? Like, is it Yeah.
100%. I think I know what you're saying there, and it is. I do see the same trend. I mean, I don't think anyone has that one thing, especially the OCD people.
Yeah, maybe except for Bela Fleck, maybe.
He goes from banjo to the banjo to more banjo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dinner. What is, if you don't mind me asking, it's a little on the personal side, but what's your spiritual orientation? Are you like religious? Are you?
I'm a beam of light, dude. I mean, I think there. Yeah. So it's religion is a funny thing. I won't call myself religious. Do I believe there is a God? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think that we are created? Yes. Do I think we have a full understanding of where we're at spiritually? No. No, because we would see that in how we lived as a people. But we don't, even the good ones. There's problems, right? But am I? Yeah, 1,000,000% believer. I spend my mornings and evenings in very careful, thoughtful prayer about just goodness and life and positivity. You bring into your life. I mean, you kind of really do sow everything you get. I believe that's just my personal belief. I believe you are responsible for everything that comes your way and everything that doesn't come your way. Yeah. You can get as weird, metaphysical about it as you want, but at the end of the day, I believe I am a created being with a life that will continue after this body goes. Now, where I go from there, I won't get into any more specifics than, there's a lot I don't understand, but I know I go past this.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of bringing in, attracting the things into your life that are good, this song, "Hey Brother," became such a cultural phenomenon. Can you talk about what that experience was like?
"Hey Brother" is the other significant kind of game changer experience musically that happened in my life that I really never expected or couldn't see it coming, and I didn't understand it as it was unfolding. I can say honestly, and I'll back up. When I very first got the message, it was from my assistant who had just given me a simple text. "Hey, this guy Avicii is reaching out, wants to know if you'd like to sing a song on his next record." You have to know Dan to know that I barely know everybody in bluegrass. Forget about genres outside. Like, I have a very small musical bubble, right? I don't listen to a lot. I had no idea who Avicii was. She said EDM music. I had no idea what EDM music was. And this is not even an exaggeration. I had no clue what it was. I asked her, I said, "What do you mean EDM?" She said, and that's what she does on the phone. And I'm like, I laughed. I was like, "Oh my God, you're crazy." I said, "Yeah." I said, "No, thank you." This is just what I said. That was as quick as it went by. I said, "No, thank you." Now, Shelley, the quality person that she is, says to me, "Do you want to hear this song before we give an official no thank you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, that would be great." So she's sending me the song. And in my mind, I think really quickly, who do I know that might know this guy? And my 19-year-old daughter listens to everything from Mel Torme to AC/DC, everything. Like, she just loves all music. So I texted her, right? Real quick, because I needed a quick response. I could have called her, right? She was a teenager. I texted her so that she'd get right back to me. Text her, "You ever heard of Avicii?" And she immediately responds. She says, "Swedish DJ, he's a genius. He's my favorite artist. Why?" And now I know, like, oh God, I've got her on the hook, right? So I text back, I say, "I think he wants me to do a song on his next record." And then the bubbles, of course, come right up. I see she's texting back. One word: bullshit. My sweet little girl. I'm looking at my sweet little girl, and I'm like, "Wait a second, what?" And I start to respond, right, to this, and my phone rings, and it's her. Now I know it's on because, she's willing to waste, valuable voice time with dear old dad, right? So I'm like, "Daughter." She goes, "Dad, are you messing with me? Because if you're punking me, if this is like, this could be a joke, right? Because this is like how much I love him. Like, this is not something, I'm not in a good place right now. And if this isn't serious," she's talking, I'm serious, speeding up, talking higher and faster. Like, it was crazy. She ends up saying, "If this is real and you don't do this, I'm out." This is all she says. "I'm out." She says, "I'm out." She was 19, right? She was living on her own. She's paying all her own bills. Like, she literally was, completely off the teat, right? She was out already. Yeah. This is what I said. I said, "Whether you know it or not," I said, "You're already out. What does that mean?" And when I said, "What does that mean?" there was a little bit of silence, and she just said, try me. But it was a serious, someone's tone.
Yeah.
I was like, God, I was like, okay. Meanwhile, the song comes in on the phone. I hear buzz, like, I got to go. I got to listen to this song.
Yeah.
Now I listen to the song with a whole new, my daughter loves this guy. Like, this is if there's any way I can do this song, I'm doing it now, right?
Yeah.
And I listened to a song that I loved. Like, I listened to, like, I was like, what is, it was not the song everyone heard. It was just a guitar vocal. There was, just two strings and a guy singing the demo, right? And I listened to it like I was singing along with it. It was kind of in my key. It was the tempo that works for me, like the subject matter, like what it was about, everything. It was glorious. I thought, well, this is a no-brainer. So I'd call this is again, now the ignorant Dan, this is the complete idiot. I called my assistant back and I said, hey, listen. I said, let's do this song. I said, it turns out my daughter loves this guy. I said, I don't care if I don't know him. I said, no one's ever going to hear this. I said, this will be swept under a rug so quick. I said, let's just do it. It'll mean the world to my daughter.
Yeah.
So she goes, now I guarantee my assistant, Shelly, she knew I was an idiot, right? That she just didn't, she's too nice to say. She's like, okay, well, will be the response. Okay, then, so, right? So now I get this, I get all this going and I find out, I'm doing this, okay, you're doing this song and this is great. And, we don't have any tracks. Can you sing it to a click? And I was like, can I sing it to a click? I'm like, well, I can do whatever you want. And they're like, yeah, like you've got the map. You got to just do it just like the demo. Just send me the parts. I'll put them wherever I need. So I go into a studio. The guy hits a note on the piano, like, doesn't hear it. Whoops, right here. Right?
Yeah.
And I hear that note. And there's a click going. So I just sit there and I go, hey, brother, there's an endless. And I sing the song, right, to this click. And that's it, man. That's my gig. And I'm done. And and it goes away and I forget about it. And in my mind at this point in time, it's going to be swept under a rug. I have no idea, nothing, no clue. And then one day my phone rings and it's a buddy of mine from Nashville says, Dan Tyminski. I said, hey, what's going on? He says, man, you got to turn on the damn radio. He goes, there's someone out there trying to rip you off, man. He says, they sound exactly like you. And I know they're trying to just copy you to a T. He says, you got to hear this shit. And I go, and I'm aware. I said, is it a song? He goes, I say, hey, brother. And he goes, yeah, that's the song. I said, that's me. He says, no, man. He says, I've searched your name is not on it nowhere. And I said, no, it's not on. I said, I'm just work for hire. I might as well have been a harmonica. I said, it's a different type of thing. The EDM, they just swim parts around and whatever. Well, that was the first of an endless blow up of my phone. Everyone's calling me saying, is this you? Is this you? Because they all knew it was me, but there's no name. There's no way to prove it. So my phone never stopped. And then Super Bowl comes on. It's a Super Bowl commercial. I find out from my management, they said, this song is #1 over here and then over here too. And then by the time it was said and done, I think at one point in time, it was the #1 song in 16 different countries simultaneously, right? It is by so far, it's a global smash. It's by far the biggest song I could ever have been a part of. And we're talking, I was so clueless. I had no idea what was going on, what the song was going to be, what EDM was, who Avicii was, any of this, right? My daughter was such a big fan. I said, hey, let's do it.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm thankful for things like that in my life because I can't pick stuff like that. I don't, I didn't know the difference, but it ended up being so profound, not only in what that song did. And I mean, that first year it had over 1 billion with a B, 1 billion streams. And then every year after, this year on Spotify, this past year, Spotify, over 1 billion streams.
Yeah.
It's still ridiculously, enormously huge, beyond what I can even fathom, right? But now, I'm not getting rich off this one. My name is not on it, right? So I don't see the big checks coming in from this one. But what this song did for me was profound in another way, in that it got people writing music with me. It got me, easily is the reason I got the songwriter deal that I got with Barry Coburn at 1010 Publishing. It was a buzz, right? There was a lot going on. Anyone was willing to write with Dan at that point in time. I had an into Avicii.
Yeah, yeah.
So I spend the next year and a half writing songs with the only purpose of any of the songs that I'm in there to work on is to try to find something outside of the box, something different than anything that's out there. Just something that sounds like nothing else. Just get outside of the box, free up your mind and write different stuff. And I wrote a lot of crazy, crazy stuff, some of which ended up, some of the not so crazy stuff. I mean, a lot of it ended up on a record called Southern Gothic. And I don't write not a single one of those songs. Not a single one had I not done Hey Brother and had such a left. I mean, it's weird when you only hear your voice one way and then you realize you can work in a whole different genre of music, in a whole different, like, I had no idea my voice would translate to EDM or to anything else, right? But it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it gave me a sense, it gave me the courage to go places I would never go without it. That song impacted me more profoundly than probably any other music in my life. I mean, Oh Brother had its own way. It made me look at music differently. It made me see that it didn't have to be perfect. It made me see the beauty in the imperfection and just how it touches your soul. But Hey Brother, it gave me courage. It gave me the drive to try to do different stuff. Now I can come right back around to the last bluegrass record I did, with songs, anything from Silence in the Brandy to Occam's Razor to some of those songs. There's no way I write those songs that are that strange. If you listen to the songs and you read them, I mean, they're clever, and they're interesting songs, but they're so far out of what box I was writing in before that I would have never got there without Hey Brother. Hey Brother opened up the world to me.
That's wild. That is wild. And so, in your current writing process, how many are you working on a record at the moment? I know you just. I
never stop working on music. Like, am I working on a record right now? No, physically right now. The reality is that it will take too long for me to put a full record together with the new guys and gals I have in the band. I don't want to wait that long before we release anything. So I have a couple songs that I'm probably going to go in and just do as singles and release a song or two songs at a time until we can put together. I mean, I still want to put together. I love the feeling a full body of work gives you. It can take you through a journey, and it can speak to you just in a better way, when you get that full record. But, right now I have to be real and I need to get music out there, as much as I can and as quick as I can. And that's going to be in singles.
Yeah, makes sense. And it's also kind of the thing to do now. It's like,
I never know the thing to do now. I've not been that guy who has the foresight, says, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. This is what, I said the iPod would never catch on. I'm the biggest fool ever. Like, I had the first version. We were at the Grammys one year with Allison and Union Station, and part of the gift bag for playing on the show was, you get all these goodies, and one of the things was an iPod. And I had someone explain it to me. And they said, well, no, you hook it up to your computer, and then you download your CD on your computer, then you can download it from your computer on your iPod so that you can carry this with you to hear your music. And I'm looking at the iPod, I'm looking at a CD, and I'm like, no one's doing that. I was like, seriously. I was like, no one is going to do that.
Yeah.
No one. Now, in my defense, if you actually had to do that every time and take a CD and download it, I don't know if people would do it now that it's digital and you can just press a button. Yes, now, but I had no foresight. Like, I laughed at that thing. I was like, does anybody want it? Like, this isn't for me, right? I gave it to the first person who said yes, right? Mm-hmm. And it's probably a collector's item now, that very first, like, it had just come. Oh yeah, it was a brand new thing. Yeah, it was a brand new thing. Whatever it was, I remember laughing at it, thinking, that's crazy. And I said a couple other things. I've had songs that I said no to that I probably should have done. Like, I think way back, here's another one. This is a funny one. Whiskey Lullaby was presented to me for me to do back when there was a thought of maybe me recording some of my own music and do this song. And it got to be this one line in a song. And the original line in the song was, and put that bottle to his head and pull the trigger and finally blew away his memory. Mm. And I remember just thinking, the way my mind works, that was too graphic. I said, it's not, so that doesn't work for me. I said, what if you said, like, finally drank away, he put that bottle to his head and pulled the trigger and finally drank away his memory. So what if we said that? And I remember the lady, Mary, she said, you're just going to change the words to a Bill Anderson song? I don't think so, right? And so I'm like, whatever. So I pass on the song, and I wasn't looking for a deal or anything. It made no sense anyway. But shortly after that, Brad Paisley and Alison Kraus record this song. And who's singing the third part on it? Old Dano, right? So I'm the third voice on that duet, right? They play the song and it comes to that line. What is the line? And finally drank away his memory. The same exact words that I said. And I remember at that point, thinking to myself, I can write songs. Like, why can't I write a song? No, I'm serious. This was at a point where I had not written any songs. Yeah. I thought to myself, oh, wow, I could write songs. And then I started, I met a couple people that gave me some inspiration that made me want to write songs. And yeah, I started very late in my life. I mean, right now I play almost only songs that I write, but it's new for me again. This is a new chapter in the story of Dan. I've never thought I had enough to say. It turns out I've got so much to say. I've got to call so much. It's ridiculous, man. My throwaway pile is getting pretty big.
That's pretty cool. I want to switch gears here a little bit and talk a little bit about your influences. Specifically,
Sure.
I know we talked about it before the interview, the influence that Tony Rice had on your rhythm playing. What? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so Tony, here's what I'll say, and I don't try to even fool people at all that I play any type of rhythm the way Tony played. I mean, Tony had a very unique and personal right hand that really very few people can do, and only at times I can mimic some of it, right? His rhythm playing was such. he was. It didn't matter what he was playing with. He filled every hole that was there. Like when I've had the opportunity to be in the studio with Tony and to just take his rhythm on tracks and solo it, take the band away and just listen to what he did on rhythm. And to be quite honest, it didn't make a lot of sense to me when I listened to it by itself. He wasn't just going. It wasn't a steady thing. It wasn't something you could kind of follow. Like it was. He was kind of dancing around, and he was doing. Sometimes he would hit, and sometimes he would rake up, and then he would do a lot of downstrokes, like. He had a lot of he had a very, so hard to imagine what he was doing on the rhythm. Like he had I'm trying to think of something Tony would have done like. He kept breaking away and would do these up things, and I started messing up and tightening up. That's why I had to stop. I mean, I know very few people who can maintain that for a long time. And I'm going to say now, even Tony, the later he got in his, like when he was in great practice, the best ever. But the type of playing that he did, his right hand was so dependent upon the previous note that if the previous note was off, the next three notes were off. So later in his career, you started hearing him mess up on solos, and you would kind of... And I've heard people talk about it and say, well, he would just be a train wreck and he's not playing good. And what they don't consider is the perfection it takes to pull off just. If you miss any one of those, well, the whole thing is off. So, everything that he did, I can overlook the few mistakes he makes and that he made. For the genius that was his right hand. His right hand was the quintessential bluegrass right hand. And I'll pull something that I noticed about bluegrass right hands. And this is something anyone can go and search. Anyone can go to YouTube and look at some Tony Rice bluegrass album band, go back to 1984 and 85. Watch Tony Rice and Doyle Lawson on stage together. And just, even if it's even great, even if you mute the sound and just watch them, watch their right hands. Both Doyle Lawson and Tony Rice's right hand have this lobe, and they both snap at the same time together. Well, now Doyle is playing a mandolin chop. He's only supposed to be here, right? And Tony's supposed to be more. You'd think he would be more one, but in truth, Tony's right hand looked a lot like a mandolin player's right hand. Right? When he did play fan rhythm, he was on that mandolin chop more than you ever really hear if you listen to him. It's really best to watch, some of that stuff, and you really get so much more information when you can put your eyes on what he's doing. Because to pick apart with just your ears, his right hand is just, it's almost impossible to determine what he's doing.
You did a tribute record to Tony.
I sure did.
Incredible record, and you were able to pull together a pretty incredible group of people. I know on Church Street, was it Molly Tuttle?
So I pulled in, I had Molly Tuttle, and I had Billy Strings, and I had Daly and Vincent, and I had Gavin Largent, and I had Jerry Douglas and Sam Bush and Todd Phillips, and a lot of what I was calling Tony's cronies. The people that were playing with Tony when he inspired me so much, like I was able to get those guys to come to my place, into my little studio and record that stuff. It's the most bittersweet project I've ever done, because of course it was something that I never wanted to tackle, because it was born out of, our losing Tony over this, COVID season. And it was a horrible loss. And I found myself, trying to soothe my own feelings with just playing guitar, and I just kept playing. Now, I don't know what that was. It was just a melody I heard in my head with his type of cross picking that he did, right? And I just kept playing it over and over and over again, just because it made me feel better. And then I was talking with Josh Williams one day, and I invited him to come over because he played with Tony. He was close with Tony, and we just wanted to celebrate his memory. And really had no plans, but I ended up playing in that little thing. And I don't know if it was him that said it or me. I was like, if we put words to it, we could probably have a little song. We'd do something for Tony, right? And we wrote what I became, ended up becoming very proud of. We wrote a song that wish I never had to write, but it was a way to express some of my feelings about the man. I mean, he's the reason I'm playing. He's the one that was behind that guitar pick when I first got the fire lit under me. When I said I cannot live without doing this, and I didn't even know it was him. I thought it was the banjo, right? What I learned, all my life, it's always been the banjo-guitar relationship that has turned me on. J.D. Crowe, easily my favorite banjo player when he was playing with Tony Rice. But if I think about all my favorite banjo players, growing up, one of the guys I just idolized, his name was Paul Sylvius. Well, he was playing with Del McCoury. He had Del McCoury's rhythm guitar playing. Go back to Earl Scruggs, Lester Flatt's rhythm guitar playing. He had a thing, right? When I listened to all the greatest banjo players, they had the greatest rhythm guitar players behind them. There was a correlation there. There was a language. And this is why I say I was trained for the Allison Krauss job. Ron Block is a banjo/guitar player. I am a banjo/guitar player, right? We both have an understanding of the other instrument enough to be able to speak freely with one another. Like, we had a really good relationship with how we played. I knew what to do after he pulled a 4-string. I knew how to hit it after that. If I did a G run, he heard that G run, and he'd pull the 4. Like, there was a language, right? It was it's amazing to have that, but it's the rhythm guitar that led to all of it in my early days, and I just wasn't aware of it. And then the more I studied, and the more, again, as a lifetime of watching Tony, and then getting to meet him, and then getting to play with him, record with him, and just generally be a fan. And whether I was playing with him or not, even if I was playing with him, I stood there like a fan. I was mesmerized by his ability and what he did. And he was just more, I think he was just the clearest channel to let you feel the music. Everything he played always suited the message of the song. Like, nothing ever sounded contradictory in anything he did. Everything melted perfectly into what he was doing. His just when he played even the Church Street Blues record, the stuff he did, just guitar and vocal. There's not much better music that I could point to out there. He is just absolutely the master of an acoustic guitar.
You guys pulled in, on that tribute record, one of my favorite tunes off the Skaggs and Rice record, Soul Pin Never Dies.
Love it, right?
Yeah, incredibly tight harmonies, and just like, he had kind of the whole package.
And Billy plays a fire out. And people don't consider Billy like a Tony Rice player, because he's not. It's not how you would define him. But you could also say he's not who he is without Tony. He was an enormous influence on Billy, because he was enormous. He was he was just an influence on the whole world. So, and Billy will tell you the same thing. You'll say, yeah, how do you become an acoustic player and not credit him with some of your influence? He's touched the entire planet.
Yeah, 100%. Well, would you you be open to playing us a couple of tunes here?
Oh man, what do you want to hear?
Whatever
Holy
feels
cow.
alive for you, man.
Holy cow. Trying to think of what I would play. Now I'm thinking Tony Rice. What would I play from Tony? I'll give you,
But
let's see. I did not, again, no set list. This is a song that I recorded on that Tony tribute record. I did this one with Daly and Vincent, but I'll just do it solo. This is a song that I have watched. There's an internet version where he does this. There's a camera zooming in on his right hand on this song. The name of the song is 10 Degrees and Getting Colder. And you get a really close up of the magic of his right hand, and I'm gonna play it pretty close to what you'll hear if you go look it up. Standing by the highway with a sign that just said mother, when he heard a driver coming about a half a mile away. So he held his sign up higher so no decent soul could miss it. It was 10 degrees or colder down by Boulder Dam that day. It was out in Arizona when he heard the lady listening to each word that he was singing, to each line that he would write. So he sat down by her table and they talked about the weather, 98.6 and rising down by Boulder Dam that night. And she told him she would take him for a ride in the morning sun. Back in Boulder, well, he had told her, I don't know when I've had a better friend. But now he's traded off his marker, but his troubles are not over. For his feet are almost frozen and the sun is sinking low. Won't you listen to me, brother? If you ever loved your mother, please pull off on the shoulder. If you're going, they'll walk you home. It's 10 degrees and getting colder down by Boulder Dam today.
Beautiful stuff.
Mitch is smiling.
Yeah. Mitch likes it. If Mitch likes it, you know it's good.
Oh, man. That's nervous. You know what? It's so much easier to play in front of a lot of people than it is to play like, you go to do it all by yourself and all of a sudden your voice is shaking and it's twitching. I can hear my watch rattle.
I mean, that was completely enjoyable.
No, I love doing it, man. That's like, that stuff speaks to me. That's one of the songs that bring back my first feelings of love and falling in love with this stuff. You know, like it's one of those songs. And of course that was on the record that, got me into this. Anyway, that 0044 record, they got a great version of that. Yeah. If I have any purpose at all, it is just to try to bridge the gap between what my name is and what those songs are, because I'm still in that category where people continue to come out to shows and don't realize, oh my gosh, you're the guy, like, I knew who you were, but I don't know who you are. So we're trying to get that out. So a little bit of Man of Constant Sorrow or Hey Brother or any, whatever. Man of Constant Sorrow is one of those easy ones that people connect with. And it makes, or we could just do, like they did, like on the record, what did they did, the instrumental version.
Hey, brother.
No, Man of Constant Sorrow.
Maybe a slow version.
If you listen to that record, like, see, I rarely listen to it, but when I go back, Man of Constant Sorrow is on that record 3 times.
That's right. You do a slow version on that.
They do the solo version, they got a big band version, and then Norman Blake plays that slow. Because that's all through that slow campfire stuff. That's their background music. So we could do, we do background music. No, I'm just.
Can we just compose a backing track for the whole? Yeah, let's do the, we'll do the higher energy version of May the Constant Sour.
It'll be a little different than that. No. Well, this is the first thing. So, I'm going to play it how when I first grabbed the guitar, it was tuned up like this, you know, it was in the thing and we were trying to figure it out. And when they said, you just sold your soul to the devil, your fingers are flying, you're hungry. If you knock it out of the park, they're going to pay you big money. You're so hungry, you just stole a chicken. That was my last words. And I went, just stole a chicken. So I said, let me see the guitar. And I just grabbed it. Well, in constant sorrow all through his day, I am a man in a constant sorrow. Well, I've seen trouble on my day. Well, I bid farewell to old Kentucky, the place where I was born and raised, the place where he was born and raised. Well, for 6 long years I've been in trouble, but no pleasure here on earth I find. In this world, Harold, I'm bound to ramble. I have no friends to help me now. Now just Mitch. No friends. Mitch is not singing. He didn't do it, folks. Well, hey, think I'm just a stranger. My face you never will see no more. But there is one promise that is given. I meet you on God's golden shore. We'll meet you on God's golden shore.